the girl witnesses a heartbreaking scene in town. Her boyfriend is out shopping intimately with another woman. She stands frozen, waiting for an explanation, but he just turns cold and walks away. In that moment, the truth hits her. She was the other woman all along. The heartbreak leaves her breathless. Suddenly, the roar of an engine approaches. She scrambles to hide deep in the marsh, watching helplessly as her boyfriend docks his boat and heads straight for her shack. She sobs quietly in the mud, finally seeing him for who he really is. The man she loved is rotten to the core. After this emotional storm passes, she tries to start her life over, but he refuses to leave her alone. She seizes a chance to escape, but he tackles her to the ground and forces himself on top of her, attempting to assault her. Furious, Kia grabs a rock and strikes him, kicking the heartless man away. She screams a final, desperate warning, but no one could have guessed that her angry threat would become a cruel prophecy. A few days later, a man's body is found beneath the fire tower in the marsh. What's baffling is that no footprints are found anywhere near the scene. Two officers climb the 60-foot tower and find a grate on the top deck is missing. Looking down through the open hatch, it's clear the victim fell backward from that height. This looks like a carefully calculated murder, but strangely enough, not a single fingerprint is found on the rails. The only clue is a few red fibers found on the victim. Armed with this key evidence, the police quickly identify a suspect and bring her in. The girl, named Kia, once had a relationship with the victim, Chase. Their worlds were poles apart. Chase was the town's wealthy golden boy, while Kia was an uneducated orphan, living alone deep in the marsh. To the locals, she was just the Marsh girl. Some people even called her a monster. Just when Kia had lost all hope, a silver-haired lawyer reached out to help. In that cold, gloomy cell, Kia began to tell the older man the story of her turbulent life. Her childhood should have been filled with joy. Her mother was as gentle as the marsh's morning mist. She loved painting by the river, capturing all its beauty with her brush. Every night, she'd tell Kia magical stories. She had 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and the time they spent together was the warmest memory she held dear. But that warmth was shattered by her father's violence. He spent his days in a drunken stupor, and his temper was terrifying. He'd beat his family at the slightest provocation, sparing not even her gentle mother. The whole house lived in fear, never knowing when the next conflict would explode. Finally, her mother couldn't take it anymore. In a daze, she picked up her suitcase and walked out without looking back. Kia ran after her barefoot, crying "Ma," but that familiar figure eventually disappeared at the end of the lane. Her mother's departure opened the floodgates. Soon, her oldest brother packed up and left. Then her 2 sisters followed suit. Finally, even her beloved brother Jody, unable to stand their father's abuse, chose to leave the marsh forever. Now, in that big old house, only Kia and her abusive father remained. She hid in the shadows every day, trying to make herself invisible, terrified that one wrong move would ignite her father's rage, and the vast marsh became her only sanctuary. Maybe because everyone else had gone, her father's temper actually mellowed. This gave Kia the courage to speak her mind for the first time. Surprisingly, her father agreed and took her into town to buy food. It was the first time Kia had ever stepped inside a store. Sitting on the counter, the fresh fruit and bread gave off a tempting aroma. These were delicacies she had never seen before. The shopkeeper's wife noticed the girl's embarrassment at once. She was barefoot and covered in mud and grime, but her eyes sparkled with curiosity. The woman gently told her that the town's public school not only provided free lunch, but she could also learn a lot of interesting things. She encouraged Kia to go get an education. Kia took her words to heart. Early the next morning, Kia dug out an old skirt her sister had left behind. Although it didn't fit well, she summoned the courage to walk to school barefoot. But what awaited her wasn't warm. It was the cruel mockery of her classmates. The teacher asked her to spell dog, and she spelled G-O. The classroom instantly erupted in laughter. No one wanted to sit next to her, so she walked silently to the back row. But the sneering didn't stop. Instead, it became sharper and harsher. Finally, Kia couldn't take it anymore, and rushed out of the classroom in tears. That turned out to be her first and last day of school. To her surprise, Pa actually gave her an old knapsack. She felt incredibly touched. Just when she thought life might stay peaceful, a letter from her mother broke the fragile balance. Kia was filled with hope, thinking her mother was coming back for her. But after Pa read the letter, he furiously pulled out a lighter and burned it to ashes. "This is your life now." Her father's roar exploded like thunder in her ear. That night, Pa burned everything related to her mother. When Kia woke up in the middle of the night, she found that her father was gone forever, too, leaving her all alone. She could endure the emptiness in her heart, but the problem of survival was urgent. The rice and cornmeal Pa left behind, along along with a few candles, were running out fast. How could a young child survive in this marsh all alone? Yet, Kia refused to bow to fate. Mimicking her father's ways from memory, she'd head into the marsh at daybreak to gather fresh mussel. Then, hauling the heavy sack, she'd make the long walk to the town store. Kind-hearted Jumpin' and his wife took pity on the child. They didn't just buy all her mussel, they gave her a fair price, too. Mabel carefully measured her size, and from the church donation bin, found shoes and clothes that fit. She even patiently taught her how to count. With no family to rely on, Kia learned to live on her own, becoming one with the wild. The marsh taught her the laws of survival, and so, amidst the world's prejudice and neglect, she quietly blossomed into a graceful young woman. Kia had thought she'd live alone in the marsh forever. One day, just like any other, she set out to look for mussel. Suddenly, she noticed something on a stump, a pure white feather. What surprised her even more was that the next day, there were more feathers, along with a spark plug and vegetable seed. There was a note tucked inside. Kia was thrilled. She rushed home to fetch a beautiful feather she'd treasured, intending to leave it as a return gift. But as she happily returned, she unexpectedly ran into a boy. This boy, Tate, was the son of a local shrimper. He'd once helped Kia when she was lost. He'd seen her fishing a few times, drawn to the resilience in her solitude, so he chose this way to reach out. Kia admitted awkwardly that she didn't know how to act around people. The air grew tense with silence. Then Tate made a gentle offer. His words were like a beam of light, instantly illuminating her isolated world. Tate was an incredibly patient teacher. Starting with the simplest letters, he would write one down, and Kia would carefully copy it. She was like parched earth, soaking up knowledge like rain. Her speed surprised even Tate. One day, Tate came to Kia's place and discovered her amazing talent for drawing. The shack was covered in sketches, birds in flight, schools of swimming fish, and wildflowers blooming in the wind. Every drawing pulsed with life. It turned out the marsh wasn't just her refuge, it was her greatest teacher. Besides teaching her to read, Tate borrowed all kinds of books from the library. From fascinating atlases to vivid biology encyclopedias, these books opened up a whole new world for Kia. As they spent their days together, two hearts grew closer. On an afternoon of falling leaves, they couldn't help but share a kiss, becoming lovers. This sincere affection let Kia feel the warmth of being loved again. Tate celebrated her birthday, making her the first cake of her life. These tender moments gradually healed the scars of her past, but happy times are always fleeting. Tate received his college acceptance letter. It was the opportunity he'd dreamed of, and a crucial step to change his destiny. Before leaving, he produced a list of publishers and spoke earnestly to Kia. Tate made a solemn promise he would return in a month for the 4th of July to watch the fireworks over the water with her. Though she hated to see him go, Kia chose to support Tate's dream. She nodded gently, agreeing to the promise. The month of waiting felt endless. Kia painted every day to ease her longing. Finally, the 4th of July arrived. She put on her favorite dress and applied the lipstick her mother left behind. She headed to the beach at dawn to wait. She waited from sunrise to sunset, and from twilight until the dead of night. When the fireworks finally lit up the sky, the one who promised to watch them with her never showed up. It was only then she realized Tate had abandoned her. She went home like a wounded child, took the manuscript she'd prepared for Tate, tore it to shreds page by page, and threw it all into the fireplace. Burning to ashes along with it was her budding first love. The heartbreak left her despondent for a long time. She spent her days in a daze, losing all hope for the future, until one morning, a sharp bird call came through the window. The clear sound seemed to wake her from her stupor. She followed the sound down to the beach to feed her feathered friend visiting from afar. As the waves washed over the sand, they slowly healed the wounds in her heart. She drew strength from nature and pulled herself together, pouring all her energy into painting and studying the marsh life. 5 years slipped by quietly. Kia grew into a confident, independent young woman, but her peace was shattered once more. One day, she noticed a stranger taking photos around her property. Jumpin' told her developers wanted to buy the marsh for a resort, and she had to produce a deed to save the only home she'd ever known. But the clerk at the tax office told her she had to pay the back taxes for all those years, a full $800, to secure the deed. For Kia, that figure was astronomical. She remembered the list of publishers Tate had left. After much hesitation, she summoned the courage to send a letter, enclosing her carefully illustrated samples. Just as she was worrying about the tax money, a man entered her life and changed everything. His name was Chase, the town's golden boy. He was tall and a smooth talker. He eagerly helped Kia load her boat and invited her to a picnic by the lake for the weekend. The unworldly Kia innocently accepted his invitation. On their first date, Chase surprised Kia with his behavior. He actually actually called her Kia, instead of Marsh girl like everyone else. This small detail won her over. Down by the lake, Kia spotted a rare shell. Chase was amazed by her knowledge, and praised her for being so unique. When their eyes met, Chase leaned in and kissed her, but when he tried to go further, Kia firmly pushed him away. Chase immediately apologized, promising that without her permission, he would never cross that line again. To show his sincerity, he took Kia up to the fire tower. Standing atop the 60-foot tower, she saw for the first time the entire marsh that had raised her. For this girl who had been through so much, Chase's advances were like the first spark of warmth in a frozen cellar. However faint the light, it offered an irresistible warmth. Kia slowly opened her heart to Chase, and they grew closer and closer. Just then, she received a reply from the publisher. They loved her manuscript, and soon Kia received her first payment. Chase also got a promotion at work. He took Kia on a trip out of town, and they stayed at a motel. In truth, Chase's motive was clear. He wanted to be her first man. That night, Kia gave herself to Chase. Although the experience wasn't quite what she'd imagined, she still gave him a shell necklace as a token of their love. Lost in love, Kia couldn't help asking Chase about their future, but Chase just casually told her not to worry. My parents will listen to me. Innocent Kia didn't realize that behind his casual answer lay a devastating lie. But just as their romance deepened, Tate returned after 5 years away. He saw Kia and Chase together, so he quietly walked away. But then he heard Chase bragging to his friend. Tate was instantly furious. He charged at Chase, and a fight broke out. Luckily, the store owner stepped in to stop it, preventing it from getting any worse. That night, Tate went to Kia's shack. Seeing the first love who had abandoned her, Kia angrily threw stones at him, screaming in despair. Tate tried to explain the truth. He wanted to warn her about Chase, and tell her how much he regretted leaving. He hadn't come back then, because he thought she'd never leave the marsh, and he wasn't ready to give up the outside world. But Kia wouldn't listen to a word. She turned her back and went inside. The next day, Kia went to town for supplies. She ran into Chase, who seemed in a rush. He looked really nervous, and asked, "What are you doing here?" Kia had wanted to celebrate her book release with him, but instead, she met a woman who claimed to be Chase's fiancée. Back at the shack, Kia finally realized she'd been deceived. She cut off all contact with Chase, heartbroken once again. From then on, she poured all her energy into her writing and work. Then, her publisher sent a royalty check, a check for $5,000. After paying $800 in taxes, she bought a comfortable sofa and furniture. Her brother Jody saw her published book, and finally tracked her down. He was now a military officer. He told Kia that, after their mother left, she'd been saving up to get the kids back, but sadly, she fell ill and died. She never meant to abandon them. This news finally healed a wound Kia had carried for years, and allowed her to feel the warmth of family once again. Just as her life was starting to turn around, Chase refused to let her go. He wanted the comfort she provided, but also wanted to keep up appearances in town. When Kia ignored his advances, and simply turned to walk away, he felt humiliated in front of his friend. So, he began a campaign of vicious retaliation. He stalked and harassed her relentlessly. Kia finally reached her breaking point, and made it clear she wanted nothing more to do with him. But Chase refused to listen, and even tried to physically attack her. Furious, Kia grabbed a rock and smashed it into him, following up with several hard kicks, and giving him a final, stern warning to stay away. 2 fishermen on the shore witnessed the whole thing. Too afraid to return to her shack, Kia hurriedly packed some food, and hid deep in the marsh for days. She watched from afar as Chase hunted for her, suddenly seeing her father's shadow in him. Men like that, addicted to violence, never let go easily. When she finally built up the courage to go home, she was stunned by the scene before her. Her furniture was overturned, and her drawings were torn to shreds. The home she had so carefully created had been completely trashed by Chase. Faced with such violation, Kia made a solemn vow she would not live in fear any longer. Yet, even in such a desperate situation, she insisted on keeping Tate out of it. Kia had a plan of her own. She planned to go into town to meet her publisher, to discuss her new book. She would deal with the Chase problem when she returned. Before she left, she went to the general store to check the bus schedule. Jumpin noticed the bruise on her face, and furiously wanted to confront Chase, but Kia stopped him. She explained with resignation that in a town full of prejudice, she knew she'd never find justice. The next day, Kia carefully applied makeup to cover the bruises on her face. Under the judgmental gaze of the townsfolk, she boarded the bus to the city. That night, the meeting with the publishers went great. They talked for hours, but while Kia was away meeting the publishers, Chase died under mysterious circumstances. Everyone suspected the Marsh girl was responsible. She remained silent in jail. Her lawyer advised her to claim it was an accident. That way, she'd face a lesser charge of manslaughter, and she'd be free in 10 years or less. But Kia refused the offer. She seemed completely indifferent to the trial, spending the whole time lost in her own world. The prosecution insisted that Kia wiped away every footprint at the scene. Her lawyer presented a tide table as evidence, arguing the tide could have washed away the track. The fire tower was old and dilapidated, posing a significant safety hazard. The police had even sent a report to the Forestry Service, noting that Chase's death could easily have been an accident. A witness testified that Kia threatened to kill Chase. Her lawyer argued that in the heat of an attack, anyone might say things they don't mean. Chase's mother testified that her son always wore a shell necklace, but it mysteriously vanished after he died. She insisted Kia took it after killing him. The defense immediately pointed out that police searched the marsh and never found it. The prosecution speculated that Kia snuck back that night to commit the murder, but there was no evidence to support this claim. Finally, the publisher took the stand. He confirmed he was meeting with Kia that night, and she didn't get back to her hotel until late, leaving her no time to commit the murder. Now came the most critical moment. Whether the murder charge would stick depended entirely on the jury's decision tomorrow. The lawyer suggested that for the final statement, she show vulnerability to gain the jury's sympathy, but she firmly rejected the idea. During closing argument, the old lawyer implored the jury not to judge Kia for being different, and to put aside their prejudice. After 6 long hours of deliberation, the jury finally reached a verdict. When the decision was announced, tears welled in Kia's eyes for the first time. She had not only won the trial, but conquered years of prejudice and injustice. Once she regained her freedom, Kia chose to remain in the marsh forever. She and Tate found their way back to each other. Tate worked at the lab in town, spending his free time with her in the marsh. Kia continued documenting the marsh life, publishing several books over the years, and becoming a respected naturalist. Time flowed on quietly. Kia grew old in the marsh's embrace. In her final moment, she drifted alone in her boat. Nature had given her everything, and to nature, she returned. After Kia passed away, Tate began sorting through her belongings, honoring her wishes. He donated her collections to the university lab. That's when an old sketchbook caught his eye. It held memories from all those years. But as he turned the pages, Tate's expression grew solemn. He saw a sketch of a male firefly approaching a female, only to be devoured. Then he turned to a portrait of Chase, and found the missing shell necklace. In that moment, Tate finally understood the truth. The story ends here. Kia's life was a series of goodbyes. Her mother left, her father disappeared, and her siblings scattered. Her first love abandoned her, her lover betrayed her. The townspeople judged and scorned her. Yet, the hardships never broke her. The marsh became her greatest teacher, teaching her the wisdom of survival, and granting her a resilient spirit. From a timid girl to a brave, independent woman, she documented her world with a brush, proved her worth through her book, and defended her home and dignity through it all. Kia's story teaches us that no matter the hardship, we must never lose hope. In the face of injustice, we must protect our dignity. A woman's strength isn't in submission, but in resilience and courage. Even when stuck in the mud, look to the stars. Even when the world abandons you, shine with your own light. Just like Kia, deep in the marsh, blooming with a dazzling radiance. This is a woman's awakening, a testament to her dignity, and the most powerful answer to prejudice.